Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler, Season 1, Episode 16. A group of strangers appearing within the camp would naturally attract the gazes of many students. However, none of them dared to approach. The ominous aura that emitted from their bodies made the young boys and girls slightly afraid. The people from the Liu territory? Mu Chen frowned as he stared at these unfamiliar men. Why did these individuals run over to the Northern Spiritual Field? It was obvious that Teacher Mo was also puzzled. He slowly walked towards the group, and a middle-aged man stepped forward. He cuffed his hands as he smiled and said, "Surely this must be the Northern Spiritual Academy's Teacher Mo. Liu Territory's Liu Ming. I apologize for coming here uninvited, but I hope you will forgive me." "Oh, so it's the third master of the Liu Territory, Liu Ming." Teacher Mo let out a faint smile when he heard those words. "How could I allow Teacher Mo call me like this? That's only a rumor caused by outsiders." The middle-aged man hurriedly shook his head and maintained a low profile. "Liu Ming, the third master of the Liu Territory, huh?" Behind Teacher Mo, Mu Chen glanced at the middle-aged man again. The latter was slightly skinny, yet he seemed strong. Moreover, he had a pair of claw-like hands. At this moment, the skinny face was filled with smiles. Mu Chen wasn't unfamiliar with the name, Liu Ming. He had often heard it from his father and Uncle Joe. This person was the younger twin brother of the Liu Territory's territory lord, Liu Qingtian, and was also the right-hand man for him. His strength had already reached the spiritual rotation stage late phase and was only a step away from reaching the spirit stage. Furthermore, he was considered a relatively well-known figure within the Northern Spiritual Realm. "You guys are?" Teacher Mo stared at the group led by Liu Ming, which did not fit with the atmosphere around the camp. He had a slightly unhappy expression. After all, this place was a training location for the students. With these ominous people around here, it might disturb the students' training. "Teacher Mo, my third uncle is currently on a mission. He noticed that Liu Yang and I were here, so he came over to see us. He did not intend to disturb us." Behind Liu Ming, Liu Mubai gave a slight smile as he spoke. "Mission?" Liu Ming sighed. "We, the Liu Territory, had an important item that was stolen by the Blood Slaughter Group while we were transporting it back. Although we, the Liu Territory, managed to encircle them and annihilate them, the captain of the Blood Slaughter Group, Shui Tu, still escaped. He fled into the Northern Spiritual Field under our chase, so we came here this time to capture him." "Shui Tu?" Hearing this name, Teacher Mo frowned. He was an extremely ruthlessly individual within the Northern Spiritual Realm. It was unknown how many lives died in his hands. If this wicked individual entered the Northern Spiritual Realm, wouldn't it be a threat to the students training here? The other law-abiding adventurer, teams and adventurers would fear the Northern Spiritual Academy. Thus, they would not dare do anything overboard to these students. However, this wicked individual would not hesitate at all. As long as they made him unhappy, he would kill without hesitation. "Oh ho ho, yes. This time we came over here because we wanted to inform Teacher Mo as well. Try and allow the students to be more careful so that nothing unpleasant would occur. After all, everybody knows how crazy that person is." As Mu Chen was standing beside Teacher Mo, he naturally heard this and was a little surprised. Obviously, he had heard of the name Blood Slaughter Group before. It was an extremely vicious name. However, these individuals weren't idiots. Why would they dare to trouble the Liu Territory? It seems that those people stole something amazing from them. Otherwise, why would the Liu Territory be so angry? Not only did they massacre the Blood Slaughter Group, they even caused Shui Tu to flee to this place. "Third Master Liu, what item did the Blood Slaughter Group steal from the Liu Territory? You would actually mobilize this many troops for it?" Mu Chen's eyes flashed. He suddenly asked as if he was naive. This kind of stupid question startled Liu Ming. He let out a dry chuckle and said, "Little brother, I can't tell you this." Mu Chen smiled slightly. Within his heart, he understood just how important that the item stolen by Shui Tu is. "Mu Chen, this matter is unrelated to your Mu Territory." Liu Mubai glanced at Mu Chen and said, "Mu Chen?" When Liu Ming heard this name, he was stunned. His eyes narrowed as he stared at Mu Chen and said, "So you're Mu Feng's son?" The only one who obtained the qualifications for the spiritual road within the Northern Spiritual Realm? Mu Chen smiled as he nodded. There were many disputes between the Liu territory and the Mu territory. It could be said that they were enemies. Therefore, he was not surprised by Liu Ming's reaction. Oh ho ho, I have heard of your name a long time ago. Originally, I thought that the spot for the spiritual road would belong to Mu Bai. Liu Ming let out a faint chuckle and said this out. Mu Chen smiled, but he did not respond. Thank you for informing us about the matter of Shui Tu. We will be careful. Seeing that Liu Ming's words have a sting in them, Teacher Mo frowned. Liu Ming was ultimately a well-known figure within the Northern Spiritual Realm. How could he speak so rudely to a young boy? Teacher Mo, we wanted to rest in the camp tonight, so we hope that Teacher Mo will accept it. Oh ho ho, although Teacher Shi had already accepted it, I still feel that it is necessary that Teacher Mo accepts it as well. Of course, we will take care of protecting the camp tonight and guarantee that nothing will happen, Liu Ming quickly said. When Teacher Mo heard this, he pondered for a moment. Since Teacher Shi had already accepted it, then it wouldn't be quite honorable if he refused. He immediately nodded and brought Liu Ming to arrange a place. I heard from Chen Tong earlier that you wanted to kill him. Seeing that Mu Chen was planning to leave, Liu Mubai suddenly called out faintly. Mu Chen tilted his head and glanced at Liu Mubai for a moment. He smiled and said, to those individuals that come to trouble me, I don't know how to be merciful to them. If you enjoy that, you can come at me by yourself. But if you allow those dogs of yours to come over again, I do not mind teaching them a lesson. Liu Mubai stared coldly at Mu Chen, as Mu Chen smiled and exchanged gazes with him. If I have the chance, I will personally test out how powerful you, a person who qualified for the spiritual road, are. I hope that you would not disappoint me. Liu Mubai stared deeply at Mu Chen. Then he left without saying any more. When Mu Chen saw this, he smiled as well. Then he turned around and headed to the camp for the East Branch students. Seeing him walk over, Tang Chenner pouted her lips and said, those fellows from the Liu territory, what is there to be proud of now? They still act this arrogant when their item was stolen. She had always been looking over there. Thus, she was slightly unhappy when she heard the stingy words from Liu Ming and Liu Mubai. Since they are unhappy, they needed somewhere to vent off their feelings. Mu Chen smiled and beckoned Tan Qingshan to come over. After he walked over, he quietly thrusted a jaded essence fruit into his hands. This is the payment for passing on the message. Mu Chen patted Tan Qingshan's shoulder while he was in a daze. Is this really for me? Tan Qingshan's face turned red because he was emotional. When they came back, Mo Ling and the others talked about the events in the valley to him. Naturally, Tan Qingshan became envious when they were all holding a jaded essence fruit. However, he knew that Mo Ling and the others worked hard for it, so that is why they obtained it. He could only blame his own strength as he could not go with them. His family environment wasn't that good. He could not afford a spirit fruit like the jaded essence fruit. The jaded essence fruit that Mu Chen gave him would be able to save a lot of time for training. If you did not pass back the message, we would not have the confidence to follow them and do the task with them. Mu Chen smiled and said, Brother Mu, thank you. Tan Qingshan held on to the jaded essence fruit and said in an appreciative voice, Go train well now. Mu Chen shook his head. Afterwards, he headed towards his own tent. Right now, he was left with 5 jaded essence fruits. With such sufficient preparations, he should be able to condense the second seal of the limitless death seal this time. Right? When he thought about this, even with his calmness, Mu Chen could not help but be excited about it. Night gradually enveloped the northern spiritual field. As the color of the sky darkened, the camp became bright again and was extremely lively. However, Mu Chen did not go out. Instead, he sat quietly within his tent with his eyes closed. He circulated the great pagoda art, and dark black lights glowed on the surface of his body. This quiet training lasted for approximately 30 minutes. Then Mu Chen opened his eyes suddenly and pulled out a round jaded essence fruit from his arms. Under the faint firelight, the jaded essence fruit's bright reflection was extremely enchanting. Mu Chen licked his mouth. Then he opened his mouth and directly shoved the jaded essence fruit into this mouth. Next up, it was finally the time to condense the second seal for the limitless death seal. The jaded essence fruit instantly dissolved when it entered Mu Chen's mouth, and a thick, sweet taste spread out within. Next, pure spiritual energy flowed out like water and infused into Mu Chen's body. The spiritual energy was extremely powerful. Thus, he pursed his lips as the spiritual energy caused Mu Chen's body to tremble slightly. Without the slightest hesitation, Mu Chen overlapped his 10 fingers and swiftly changed between complicated seals. As his seals changed, a rich spiritual energy began to condense in the center of his palms. Mu Chen had always been attempting to form the second limitless death seal for a while now. Although he had never succeeded, it still allowed him to get increasingly skilled in the condensation method. Permeated with black lights, the dark black spiritual energy nearly wrapped around Mu Chen's arms completely. The density of the spiritual energy was not something that Mu Chen would normally able to achieve. Mu Chen's eyes were fixed on the spiritual energy condensing at the center of his palm. The black light seemed to form a whirlpool, and it devoured the surrounding spiritual energy endlessly. He was completely focused on it and did not dare to be distracted at all. After all, when he attempted to condense one normally, he would use the spiritual energy that he could control. Even if it failed, it would not cause much damage to him. However, the situation right now was completely different. The spiritual energy that came from the jaded essence fruit made the spiritual energy within Mu Chen's body reach a considerably dense level. If he fails, the backlash from the spiritual energy would probably be quite troublesome for Mu Chen. Buzz. As Mu Chen concentrated, the black lights condensed more rapidly. It was possible to see a black light to slowly condense into the shape of a black light seal. All of you, go in! Mu Chen let out a cry within his heart and activated the spiritual energy within his body with all his strength. It flowed endlessly into the black light seal. The speed of the black light extending increased again. Approximately a minute later, the black light quietly retracted and a black light seal appeared above the center of Mu Chen's left hand. He finally condensed the second limitless death seal. Mu Chen stared at the limitless death seal floating above the center of his palm, but he did not relax. Instead, his eyes became increasingly serious because he knew that succeeding in forming the limitless death seal was only the first step. Next up, he must absorb the second limitless death into his body. But when this limitless death seal enters his body, it would burst out an extremely powerful force. If he was not careful, the meridians within his body would be destroyed. Mu Chen had already suffered from the powerful backlash from the limitless death seal when he formed the first one. He understood that the backlash would only be more terrifying when he formed more of them. Even someone like Teacher Mo, who was at the spirit stage level, could not form the third limitless death seal. Although the power of the backlash would increase based on the practitioner's own strength, he was still able to differentiate just how powerful the backlash would be. Mu Chen took a deep breath, and the spiritual energy within his auracea began to surge out. It formed a protective membrane around the meridians as it prepared for the violent impact. When the inside of his body was fully prepared, Mu Chen did not hesitate, and the second limitless death seal imprinted itself onto Mu Chen's left palm. Bang! The moment that it touched Mu Chen's palm, his body trembled suddenly. Then the color of his face changed as a violent impact surged forward through his meridians like a raging flood from his left palm. The power of the impact was filled with destructiveness. Along the way, the spiritual energy membrane was smashed instantly, and his meridians could not endure the impact. It became slightly distorted, and a terrible pain came from it. Cold sweat appeared at Mu Chen's forehead. However, he did not dare to get distracted. He hurriedly mobilized his spiritual energy and contained it again. Bang, bang, bang! Mu Chen's body seems to have turned into a battlefield. The backlash from the limitless death seal destroyed the many defenses and wreaked havoc within his body. The pain made Mu Chen's body twitch slightly. Damn it! The pain had twisted Mu Chen's face a bit. He gritted his teeth and cursed loudly as he struggled to resist it. If he fails to withstand it now, then his hard work would be wasted. Moreover, he would suffer a grave injury within his body. A terrible pain constantly emitted out from his meridians. Mu Chen was completely drenched in cold sweat, and he was slightly dizzy from the pain. Only at this moment did he truly understand how difficult it was to form the second limitless death seal. The power of the backlash had already break through the outer meridians, and it charged straight towards Mu Chen's auracea without stopping. This made Mu Chen's heart turn cold. If his meridians were injured, he could still restore them. However, if his auracea was destroyed, it would definitely be so painful that he would want to die. Stop! When Mu Chen thought about this, even he couldn't remain calm, and he let out an angry roar within his heart. Buzz! When the low cry rumbled within his body, he noticed that a few lights lit up within his body. These lights were distributed throughout Mu Chen's limbs, and seemed quite peculiar. As these lights appeared, Mu Chen felt that an energy gushing out from his body, and it collided with the raging impact directly. Boom! A sound of bombardment rang out within his body and buzzed within Mu Chen's ears. He only managed to recover after a while. When he recovered, the first thing that he did was to sense within his body. However, he was startled, because he discovered that the raging backlash was actually blocked. How could this be? Mu Chen muttered at a loss. He stared in his mind at the fading lights within his body. Could this really be a spiritual pulse? But why couldn't he control it or even just sense it? After thinking for a while, he could not think of any reason why, and he could only let out a bitter laugh. It seems that there was some sort of secret within his body. Mu Chen suppressed these thoughts within his heart and circulated the great pagoda art. He gathered the spiritual energy that was spread throughout his limbs into his Orisia. However, after the spiritual energy entered his Orisia, he could feel that the originally quiet spiritual energy began to rumble. A strange fluctuation rumbled within Mu Chen's heart. When he sensed this fluctuation, Mu Chen was stunned. Then a pleasant surprise could not be concealed as it gushed out from his heart. This is a sign of the spiritual energy making a breakthrough. Mu Chen opened his eyes in surprise. He immediately pulled out another jaded essence fruit and shoved it into his mouth. Then he circulated the great pagoda art and refined the warm and cool spiritual energy. It eventually turned into a dark black spiritual energy as it endlessly entered his Orisia. The two spiritual energies quickly converged together, and a joyous cry rang out within Mu Chen's Orisia. As this joyous cry rang out, Mu Chen was able to feel the spiritual energy within his body becoming denser rapidly. This increase lasted for quite a while before it stopped. The star cluster-like dark black spiritual energy within Mu Chen's body seemed to have doubled compared to before. Inside the tent, Mu Chen opened his eyes and his handsome face was filled with joy. He stretched out his hands and a dark seal flickered within both his palms. He succeeded in forming the second limitless death seal. Mu Chen grinned and clenched his hands tightly. Not only did he condense the second limitless death seal, he even took advantage of this opportunity and broke through again. He advanced to the spiritual movement, stage late phase. Sensing that the spiritual energy within his body had become denser, Mu Chen could not help but smile. Tonight's harvest had far surpassed his own expectations. Just when Mu Chen was delighted due to his breakthrough, Teacher Mo also opened his eyes in another tent. His eyes stared in surprise in the direction of Mu Chen's tent, and he immediately smiled. This little guy is truly impressive. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.